Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought we'd pop by and create another journal page, but one that can go with this one that we created in the previous video, that's to support Mary and Lynn as Mary is having stem cell treatment, and we have a challenge at the moment that is black and white with a pop of purple. So I thought I'd do a page on this side just to sort of coordinate that with that, but sort of a simple concept. So we'll just, I've got a little bit of gold leaf there, so just a simple concept on this page here, just so that we've got something to go with it. Now this side is all lumpy and bumpy because it's got layers, so I need to just remember that. So I'm going to take an acrylic block and I'm going to take my black soot distress oxide ink, and I'm just going to use that as my palette. Let's take a little bit of water, or a lot of water, whatever. There we go. So I've got now what looks like, you know, when you spray water it's little because it just sticks. You've got now sort of a watercolour palette, and I'm going to use my brush that's it's called, I think it's called a needle point, but it's not for that. Actually, do I need one that just holds more water? Yes, let's see. I've got that many brushes now, I don't know what to use. Don't want one, no, I don't want one quite that big. Do you like how I'm sort of looking at my brushes, and you can tell that I treated myself to some brushes. I don't buy brushes very often, but these round ones, they just hold a lot more moisture. So I'm going to use one of those, I've decided, just to, and what I like to do is break down the page. Once I broke down the page, I feel quite free then. So I'm going to sort of just do a very sort of simple idea. Nothing complicated, just nice and simple. Just a simple idea. And once I start the page, I'm okay. So these pages take moisture beautifully. So what I want to happen is that that ink starts to move. There we go. So I've got the black, and just so it starts to move a little bit, I can hold the page down, and you can see with the, can you see that? With the Distress Oxide, you saw how much ink I used. Look how much pigment you end up with just spritzing that. So I'm just going to just add a little bit more, and nothing in mind apart from covering this thin sort of strip-ish, just creating a strip. And what I'm doing is just adding more of that colour, just so that it's a little bit more intense in certain areas, just so that I've got that definite black colour, just to go with our theme. So I'm using all the pigment, the Distress Oxide in this case, which is my pigment. I'm using all that just to make sure that I don't waste any of that. There we go. Let's just give that a few moments and clean up after ourselves. So let's just clean the acrylic block. Just so that I haven't got that black on there. I'm always a bit wary of black, just so that I don't get it everywhere. And then if I use another brush, this one's my needle point one, but it doesn't have to be that. You can just, actually I need something that holds more water. So I can just add a little bit more water, just so that it moves. And if that sort of, as you can see, when I touch it with the water, yes, it's moving, but there's nothing like a little spray. Look at that. It just moves it much more freeing, if that makes sense. So just use your spritzer bottle. It just gives it a little bit more movement. So we'll just wash our brush. And I'm being more mindful of my brushes these days. It's only taken 30 years, but she gets there eventually. So just wipe that. Let's make sure that we wipe that as well. And then just wipe that acrylic block. And then what you really need is like something like that. You know, the music you get on the telephone systems. But trust me, if I sang to you, you would switch off. Tone deaf doesn't even cover it. So what I want to do now is sort of create a real moody sort of atmosphere, background to it. So what I'm going to do then, after I've just cleaned this, I'm going to take some wilted violet. So I'm going to take a little touch of wilted violet. Let's hold this up so you can just see. If I press a little bit harder, I really get that pigment on there. So pick that up. And then I've got a little bit of purple on there. I'm going to pick the purple up and just sort of drop a little bit of my purple in there. Just to create a little bit of a moody atmosphere. Let's grab a little bit of Villainous Potion that is even darker. So Villainous Potion, Wilted Violet, whichever you like using, or you can use your Wilted Violet spray. Spray it with water, Tracy. Now you just want to use a little bit at a time, just to create a little bit of that moody atmosphere. That's fine. Your kitchen roller is definitely your friend. Let me just clean my brush a little bit, because I can give them a good wash afterwards. So you can see I've sort of got what I need there. And then let's just soak up the end bit here, because I don't want it too sort of, there we go. So I've allowed it to do, let me just spritz now with water, just so we get some of that colour oxidising. And let's grab a heat tool. Now I've given it a little bit of time to do its thing. So what I'm going to do now is give that a dry. But I'm sort of mindful that I'm not going too close to push the ink anywhere else. So I'm just being mindful of that. Sort of not pushing that too far. Just so that we dry it. And don't forget, we're just going for a simple idea. Let's just soak that up. There we go. Just dry that a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is create a little area where I can just do a little bit of stamping. Nothing, I only needed a tiny bit of black, so don't ask me why I did that much. Just a habit, I think. So I've got that pigment again, and then I'm just going to create a little bit of a darker area, just so it's a little bit grounded. I think I'll actually leave that colour on there just in case I want to use any more. Now I'm just going to add the water just so that it moves. I like the movement. And then I'm going to dry that. I obviously don't need, I obviously don't need this little bit of water here. So just give that a little bit of a dry. So I've got a little bit of a darker area there. And I love that this can take the water so beautifully. Just give that a thorough dry. Go. And you want to just keep drying that. Just bear with me. So you just want to keep drying that. That's it. I've got that nice dark area that I can be working with. And when you dry it and then add another layer, it sort of layers up that colour. So even though I sort of dab and then I layer, I'm still layering up some of that colour. So I'm going to take a little bit of the black again. Just layer a little bit of the black again. See, it's a good job I didn't get rid of that black. And I just water it just so it sort of softens that. And you can still sort of add water and dry at the same time. It just softens it a little bit. So once I've broken down that page, I actually feel a lot happier, because then you don't worry about sort of adding something else. It's lovely. Now I really need to make sure that my page is dry just to make it a little bit easier. And you can see there's a great big dollop of water there. There we go. So let's just help that along. That's it. So we've dried quite a bit of it. Now I've got lumps and bumps and goodness knows what else under there. So I'm just going to hold a hardback book under there, which makes the page flirt up, which is really helpful for you when you're trying to see it, but it doesn't matter. So then I'm going to take my poppy stamp TE39. Now, do I want them or do I also want 26? Yes, I also want TE26. So let's take TE26. And I'm going to take this one here. And if you're unsure, just use your acetate. Do you know, I'm going to use that one as well. And you can see I've still not got rid of the, I want a smaller acrylic block. You can see I've still not got rid of the black ink, just in case I decide I want to use that. So I'm just going to use the wilted violet. So let's use that wilted violet. Now you would hold your acrylic block onto your surface of your desk. You wouldn't hold it up in the air like I'm doing over your project. And you know why that is, because you'll drop it and it's not professional. I'm doing this so that you can see what I am doing. So let's just remove some of that. So the only reason I'm doing this is so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I've just used the oxide ink just to give me an impression. So it's just giving me an impression of where I'm going. So we can place that back. Tracy's got no room just for change. So place that back, and then we'll just be good and make sure that we clean away that oxide ink. So just so that we clean away the oxide ink. Don't leave the oxides on there, especially if you intend to then go and use your VersaFine Clair, because it will affect that. But please use a firm base to do your inking of your stamp on. I'm just trying to keep it in place so you can actually see what I'm doing. Let's hold that there. And having that hardback book under there really helps, especially when you've got lumps and bumps. So just cleaning that again. Let's just place that back. Tracy's going to put it back in the wrong place. And I've actually got the stamps in number order so that I can easily sort of go back to them. So we've then got the poppy stamp. And then I've got the small versions here that just coordinate with it really nicely. Let's add that there. And it really does help with that hardback book. Really helps that. So let's place that back. Place our... So I've sort of got the basis of my simple design. So now I've got the, because I'm good, I kept that black ink here, and now I can just add a little bit just to there, and we'll give that a little bit of water because I want that soft sort of watery feel to the whole. Now I can move my whole back book. There we go. So I can just touch that and just add that pigment. There we go, just place that there. And we've now sort of got the basis because we're just going for something simple. I don't want any sort of harsh edges. That's why I keep spritzing with water and just going to give that a dry. And obviously the purple's going to react because you've got water in there. So just give that a dry, then using the same kitchen roll, I'm just going to soak up a little bit of that moisture. There we go. And then I want to come in with some of my pencils just to give a little bit more depth. So I don't think I've left any pencils out, which makes a change for me. So we'll have a light colour. And then I want a really dark, like darkish colour. And I've even got a little bit of water on my other page. And then maybe a little bit of a light colour. So I'm going to use some of my pencils just to add a little bit more depth. And it's just fun to change your page around, just so it's not portrait, it's landscape, and it just gives it a different feel. I'm going to use black cherry, and I'm going to give that a sharpen, just because it then just gives me a lovely fine point. Oh, which one am I going in now? That doesn't feel like my normal sharpener. We've now got a piece of, what do you call it, sharpening, a piece of the pencil stuck in my, do you know, if I ever go live, something always happens. And I've got a piece, there it is. Can you see it? There. That was what was in my little sharpener. And I'm thinking, my pencil's going round, but nothing's happening. So that was good. That's better. So just giving that a sharpen. Just to get more of a point. That's better. So I'm using the black cherry, which is PC 1078. So I can just come in and just add a little bit of a darker edge to my florals, just to give them a darker edge. So because I've got that oxide laid down in the same colour, I can just then add some of this purple, this black cherry, just to give me that base layer of dark colour at the base. Now I need to be mindful that I've already got one layer of colour with that oxide. I'm then going to take the lilac PC 956 and just blend into the black cherry. Just use a circular motion just to blend into that black cherry. Let's come down here a little bit as well. And then for my light colour, I'm using lavender PC 934, and really I should sharpen the pencils. It makes it far easier. And I actually love how it's sort of bled a little bit here. Isn't it funny how the simplest of things you like? So again, going in with the black cherry, just with that circular motion, and then coming down just on the stem. then again, coming down on that and just, so that's sort of my layer with the dark pencil. Then my mid colour, which is the lilac, and we'll come in with the lilac. Always being mindful that even though I'm using that circular motion and coming into the dark colour, that I'm not pressing too hard. But these don't take much colouring at all. But I just want a little bit more depth to them, you see. That's why I'm adding 3 layers. Don't worry if you haven't got pencils, you can use your oxides. I love my pencils because it just gives that rich, deep layer of colour. And if you want to join in our challenge that's in my group to support Mary, I'm offering a little gift, which is £50 to spend in my online store. So if you'd like to join us, that would be wonderful. So let's just come in with another layer of that colour. And it smooths the actual pigment, in this case the Prismacolor, smooths out the more we fill in the areas of the card, nice and slowly rather than too quickly. There we go. Again, coming with my second colour, which is the lilac, coming into the black cherry, and then we'll come in with our light colour, which I can't pick up, which is the lavender 934. So come down into all the colours with the lavender. It's up to you if you want to add another layer, particularly if you haven't pressed too hard. You can come in with another layer of colour. I think I'm quite happy with that. It gives me beautiful depth, so I quite like that. Oops. And then Posca pen. Let me see if I can, which one's the messiest pen. I can usually tell then which is the newest. So I'm then going to come in with a little bit of white. Just give that a shake, and then I'm just going to make sure, yeah, it's white. Just give that a little bit of white, just down your stem. And then let's just add a little bit of white here. Isn't it wonderful what white does? Just gives a little bit more life to that. So I told you it was a nice sort of simple design, nothing too complicated, but I want a little bit more black now. What I've got on my acrylic block has actually dried, which is bound to the amount of faffing I do. So take my brush again, my round brush that holds lots of moisture, and just coming in with a little bit more. There we go, that's all I need. So finally we will actually wipe this up. I'll use the kitchen roll because it just wipes up nice and easy, and I'll just take out some of that black. and I can give that a bit of a clean afterwards. And then I'm going to use my smaller brush just to bring in a little bit of wilted violet. So take that wilted violet, a little bit of water, trying to bring this in so you can actually see I'm only using a little bit, just to bring that in, just touching it with the wilted violet, like so. The problem with me is I can play and faff for so long, it's just ridiculous. So I'm just going to just make it so that it looks like that's bled out, which I quite like. And I'm just using a little bit of the purple that's on the acrylic block. There we go. And the good thing when you're using anything that's, you know, water reactive, if you're not happy with something, you can quite easily just dab that with your kitchen roll and you can lift that up. I don't want to lift that up, so that's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to dry this. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Just love it, nice and simple. And then I'm going to use the poppy stamp again, and there's a lovely sort of little text stamp on there that I really, really like. Let's grab a little acrylic block. Or shall I just use it on my hand? Yes, I think I'll just use it on my hand. Can I read it from here? Yes, flowers in abundance, nodding flowers above tall stems, blowing gently in the breeze. Lovely little bit of text. So let's grab our VersaFine Clair, our Nocturne ink. And with it being a fine text, I'm not going to press the text onto the acrylic block. So I'm just going to add. Now I'm not looking for perfect stamping, that's not what it's about. It's just about adding some text that's relevant to what I've actually done. Just lovely. So we have some sort of fading out. I just love this little text. So I'm going to add again. Just add it here. And I'm going to add a little bit faded out. Love it. That's fine. Isn't it funny how just a little text stamp can make you happy? And what I'm going to do then is just sort of spritz my page with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to use my larger Posca pen, which is PC-5M. And I'm going to add some of that Posca just so that it moves. I want the Posca to move in certain areas. And then I'm going to give that a dry. Because it's on that waxy flour, it's not going to affect that. But you can see where I've spritzed with water, the florals just bleed a little bit as well. Love it. Love, love, love. I'll give this a nice, thorough dry. Just even the simplest of pages just works so beautifully. I've got a page now that coordinates with my other page. And then we can take the poppy text, just says poppy, spot the stamp I've used over and over again. So we'll take our small acrylic block. Now I'm going to have to put that book underneath because obviously we've got those lumps and bumps. And there's no point making it difficult for ourselves. Trying to stamp on a page that's got so many lumps and bumps, you don't stand a chance. So I've got the poppy text there that's now moved. I'm going to use my black Nocturne ink because that will not move with any moisture. So just giving that a few seconds just to absorb onto the top layer of that card. Lovely. And you can see I don't rush that, just take my time. Let's move that book. And I'm going to take my grey Inktense pencil. Just add a little bit of shading under there. Where's my little brush? Don't put your brush down, Tracy, because then you can't find it. So let's blend that out. Then I'm going to take a little bit of that Inktense pencil. Just bring it down just a little bit. Let's pick up the water and just add a little bit of that shading just down our florals. I found this quite a relaxing page to do, you know, sort of really relaxed into it. So then I'm going to take my Posca pen again and just come in with my white layer again. Bring that down just so that you can see that. Just lovely. Just a nice, simple page, uncluttered, that doesn't have too much on it, but I absolutely love it. So I hope you've enjoyed that little play and you'll give it a go as well. So love to all. Just lift that up for you. Do you know what I like? How it bleeds at the edge there. Just love it. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.